Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Spirit Rescue Talk. I am your host, Amy Major. Again, I have my two other co-hosts with me, Gigi Breakville and Cynthia Maroon. We do not actually have Melinda Wolfram with us today. She actually needed to take a little bit of a break for some personal projects that she's doing that's really exciting, and I'm just so thrilled for her right now. And in her stead, we're going to have some really great guests that are going to come on and be able to have these open discussions with us. I have like a long line of some amazing guests that are ready to come on and kind of shine and talk some really spooky, scary, and interesting topics with us. So I'm really excited about that as well. Our first guest for today's show is James O'Neill. He is a counselor, professional counselor. He does QHHT, which I'm really excited about as well. He does a lot of open mindfulness, a lot of meditation practices, and he does have his own podcast as well, which we're happy to have him talk about as well. But today I wanted to kind of mention we were going to talk a little bit about manifestation. I wanted us to talk a little bit about what that actually means, what it is, how to actually manifest, but actually how to get out of your own way so you can actually manifest the life of your dreams and the things that you wish to actually have in your life. So there's a lot that we want to talk about today. But I'm going to have James kind of say a little hello to everybody. We got to kind of pick on the new guy once in a while. And I'm just so excited to have him on. So hi James, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you very much for having me. It is great to be with everyone tonight,
Oh, it's great. It's great. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Not too much. We have a long discussion, but I want everyone to know how wonderful you are. I know you. I've known you for a few years now. And I know you have your own podcast as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
which I manifested. Um, well, my practice is called Journey Mindfulness. So bringing awareness to this journey, and a big part of that, which I know we're going to get into more, is, really trying to create a life that you want to live. Um, and being transformational about that. What am I doing well, and what are the blocks getting in my way, and what can I do about it? And a lot of the work that I do is transforming self-defeating core beliefs. And that could be wounding, it could be all these things, these thoughts, these, beliefs that we have in our programming, right? Our original programming that we get when we're born from our parents, our communities, and all these things. And really, I guess a lot of what I do is deprogramming that.
Nice.
So,
I love how you're using the word program. You know how much I love that word. You
well,
know.
I've
Oh,
I've had to do a lot of deprogramming in my own life, so hopefully
yeah.
that will be helpful to talk about today.
Well, I think programs is actually something that is very similar to manifestation because if you think of programs, they're intentional or automatic as well as manifestation. But I like to think of programs as things that actually we take on as belief systems or biases or anything that creates our control of our reality, who we are and what we're doing. And when we start accumulating these programs, which is more, belief systems, we take them on and believe that's who we are. So we get charged with that program or belief system, and then we kind of play off of that. And many times when people find that they can't manifest, it's usually because those programs are getting in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head there. It's bringing awareness. So one of the things I do, mindfulness, right? So it's bringing awareness to those themes, those programs, and then learning how to work with them or let go of them, or just transform them into beliefs that are starting to serve you and create healthier patterns in your life.
Mm. I love that. I think our viewers should probably have an idea of what we all feel manifesting actually is, because I do see it thrown around a lot out there in the world, and it's all about the power of control and intention. It's, the law of attraction as well that comes in as well. But I find that people may complicate it a little bit because I find the majority of people feel they have to do something, like it's a task, like it's a job to do this. And I have a little bit of a different idea on that, but I'd like to hear from my co-hosts what they feel manifestation really is and any tips that they may have for the viewers as well. Gigi, what do you think manifesting is?
Um, when I have clients come to see me for shamanic healing, a lot of times we're working on manifestation. We're working at what we'd like to bring into our lives. We're working about what we'd like to release from
Mm,
our lives. And I feel um we can pretty much the powers in within us to do this. It's just sometimes we need a little bit of guidance for it. Um Meditation I feel is absolutely can be key to this. But somehow to bring in what you want or what you want to manifest that is a positive thing in your life, something needs to be released from you.
mm,
So I do it more through the Native American rituals of the manifestation with ceremony.
mm.
Um, it's actually, this is like a really deep subject. I'm like listening to everybody. I'm like, I've got so much to learn.
I think a lot of people have a lot to learn from this, and no matter how much you know, there's always so much more to learn. And that's why I love watching YouTube videos and teachers out there in the world that teach about manifestation because everybody says it a little differently. All use a lot of the same foundation, some of the same tools, but their own interpretation of manifestation is really very interesting. And I think getting those resources from different people is is brilliant because what one person may say may not resonate with you, but with another person and the way they say it, you're like, I get it now. And that's why I think it's so important for us to keep talking about manifestation. And just so the viewers know, manifestation really is the creation of your desires. And so we don't want to manifest the bad stuff, but we are going to talk a little bit about how we actually do manifest the bad stuff. You know, you always hear about those people that are like, why do all the bad things happen to me? Why can't things just get better? Well, you're going to hear pretty soon that you might actually just be manifesting that stuff because that's the way it works. We are creators. We're constantly projecting energy around us. So once you start learning what your emotions and your thoughts are actually doing to stimulate the environment around you, you might actually find you have more power than you know. But Cynthia, what do you think? What's your view on manifestation?
So when I think of manifestation, I think of like a conscious and unconscious co-creation with the universe. And sometimes, I remember thinking back in my, previous career, working heavily with, people struggling from the impact of trauma and addiction, and working with them when they were on a path of wellness. There was a lot of talk about trying to manifest something different in their life. And there was also a lot of talk about wounding and how so there was a lot of sometimes unconscious character behavior that would lead them down paths they didn't want to go. And so they would be in program creating vision boards for themselves, for example, or engaging in meditation, trying to really manifest and go in a direction that was more positive and fulfilling. Because sometimes when you go through life and you have a lot of painful experiences, it becomes like an automatic pattern within you in terms of thought and fear. And you even see it on a very surface level when people say, oh wow, it's not a busy day at work today, knock on wood, right? Like I don't want to manifest that it gets busy because I'm hoping it doesn't, right? For example. So I think it can be conscious. I think it could be subconscious. I definitely think that wounding plays a part, in you trying to get into alignment with what it is that you want. That sometimes there can be things that you didn't even realize, programming like James was talking about earlier from childhood or other life experiences that get in the way of you getting into alignment with the things that you really want. And I'm hoping, and I don't know if James wants to speak about this, but I'm going to plant the seed right now that, Amy had mentioned earlier that you do, QHHT. And for people that might not know what that is, it has to do with past life regression. And I'm wondering if in your experience, you actually found that there were past life experiences that got in the way of some of your clients manifesting things in their own life that they wanted to see for themselves. So I'll leave that to you to decide, how that might be addressed. But that's what I think about. I think that it can't just be something that we stay on the surface about, and that's in our conscious awareness, that there's a big unconscious aspect that we have to acknowledge. Yeah.
And we also, in our shamanic world, we work with energy patterns of the mind. And so a lot of times it's readjusting the energy patterns. Where are these energy thoughts and patterns going? Because our thoughts are energy. And I've had quite a few successes with clients working on this, and just to see their lives turn around, it's I don't know, it just fills you with such joy.
It
That's
does.
beautiful, Gigi.
I love the traditions and the ceremonies, because that really helps align their focus into that intention of whatever it is they're trying to do. There's many people out there that don't know anything about these traditions and these different rituals to do. So I do want to talk a little bit about, like you said, the power of the mind and why certain things actually manifest the way they do. Now, me, I'm personally, I like watching Bashar on YouTube, and I've learned quite a bit from his teachings. And whenever I watch, it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. I already know this, and everything that Bashar teaches us is everything we already know. Technically, we just need to wake up and remember all of that. But one thing that I really like that he says is that we just need to get out of our own way. We are natural creators. If we are actually of divine essence, divine creation, then we are natural creators. And if we're naturally creating, we are creating every second of every day. Even when we're asleep, we're creating. How do we create? We create from our thoughts. We create from our emotions. We create from our expectations, our biases, our opinions and judgments. We create based on what other people are doing, and we follow suit with that because we're looking for a place of safety and just trying to get along and make sure we're doing everything right. So some of the ways that we create is our own ideas. Sometimes the ideas come from outside of us, and we just follow along with what other people are doing until we notice, oh, I don't really like what I'm creating here. I don't really like this energy. And you have the power, the free will to change it. Many times when people are actually creating, they're creating in ways they're not even aware of. This is what I call automatic manifestation. In this automatic response, you're constantly projecting all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, all of your energy, soul energy, physical body energy, mind energy, all your different forms of consciousness are constantly projecting. And I want you to think of your existence. Your reality is one big bubble of energy that's around you. That big bubble of energy is your reality. The reality is nothing more than a reflection of everything that you're projecting out from yourself. So if the reflection is reflecting back to you what you're projecting and you don't like what you're getting, then you need to look inside. You need to look at yourself as far as, what do I believe that I feel is true that I don't like, that might be creating a reality I don't like? What is it that I believe that might be negative? What biases do I hold? What judgments do I hold? What belief systems about myself am I projecting that is doing nothing but returning that back to me? Because manifestation is creation. That's nothing more. You're creating. You're changing energy. You're reprogramming energy. You're making energy flow faster, slower. You might be transmuting through manifestation. There's many different forms of manifestation, but the one thing that stays constant is that it always comes from you. It isn't something that comes from outside of you. This is a self-created prophecy in some way of saying, this is what I'm going to do, whether it's automatic or intentional. And I think I love the idea that James was talking about those programs. I really would like you to talk a little bit more about that and why you feel they would be getting in the way. Again, that reality, that bubble of reality and creation around them. How could people reprogram? How can they start thinking about changing that bubble?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you explained a lot of things very well. Um, when people are listening to this, they may find themselves having some resistance.
Yeah.
Um, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm creating this. I didn't ask for this. Like, how could that be true? I think when you start, part of it is starting to be honest with yourself, and then asking the question, what am I doing already? Like, how am I manifesting in my life now? And being like bringing awareness to that, because you'll start to get answers and insights into that. And then, maybe there's some denial. All of this is working towards, the shift of energy and maybe understanding of where you are putting your energy, the whole, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So when you're having, if the story that I have about myself is negative and I'm a victim, or I have to struggle, or I'm not going to make it, or beggars can't be choosers, like all these things that you maybe heard and picked up in your life that you have become attached to and part of your program, that, okay, is that like, what would have to be true for that, for that to really like be true, right? Like I would have to be somehow less than, or not capable, or not worthy of being successful, or having abundance. Cynthia, you had asked about QHHT. For example, I mean, I'll just share, like personally in my life, like going back in my own sort of journey with that, maybe finding a past life in which I was, a slave or a monk or someone who swore off money. And so there is a money wound that I need to let go of in order to heal and allow, so to invite more abundance into my life. Just to give an example of something like that. But starting to become aware of these things that are there that might be blocking us, and then the obstacle becoming the path. Okay, this is no longer serving me. What is it do I really want? What we talk about this all the time. Like, how can I bring more joy into my life? Like asking yourself that question and then spending time with it. And then ideally, trying to get out of your head and into your heart, I think is a big deal too. Is in
I like
that process of things.
And how do you help people do that, James? How do you help them, get out of their head and into their heart?
So actually with mindfulness to begin with is to get out of your thinking mind and into your body. So starting to feel the physical sensations, and when you start going into your body part, you might jump into a past life, or you might go into a childhood trauma or wound. That will happen, and those things will start to bubble up, and then you can work with them. So really getting to the root, ideally then, but if not, through something like QHHT, when you ask the question, it's like, where did you first experience this, or where does this stem from? And then starting to explore that in a safe way. I mean, because part of this is too, is you're trying to get out of fight or flight and into a safe environment where you can be, you can explore these things from a sense of safety.
And you do this for your clients so you can take them through the past life regression?
If we're gonna go that route, yes, but it doesn't always have to. It may not go to a QHHT type thing. It might just be going into the body and getting insights from that almost.
And that can be done through meditation?
Yes, it's
Okay.
like a body scan meditation to relax, get out of the mind into the body, start to relax. And then once you're in that state, starting to kind of explore these things and then writing them out. So, I mean, I guess you might know that as automatic writing, but really tuning in
Right.
with that and exploring what comes out. Because a lot of people don't really know, right? Like,
Yeah.
so they start getting things out.
That must be
Yeah.
hard to do though. Because I'm finding that a lot of people like being in their head. That's a safe place to be in their head. But being in their heart, that's not so safe all the time to actually feel. And most of the time, most people are actually not allowing them to feel. They're blocking their feelings quite a bit, being on guard all the
Mm,
time. Primal instincts is to be in fight and flight all the time. So
yeah.
they're always thinking, what can I do? How can I get out of this? The mind really doesn't ever shut off. If you were to talk to someone like me, I'm all in my head, and I have lots of people like, oh, feel. I'm like, yeah, feelings. And I was, but I do, you have to really hype yourself up to be able to step into your feelings and acknowledge them for what they really are. That's hard to
Yeah.
do.
It's very hard to do. I would say this has been a big part of my journey is learning how to feel, and then also in the process of learning how to, love myself, or bringing in self-love as a part of my own self-care, connecting that part of me. So
Mm.
like in terms of like thinking of integrating all these different parts that might be wounded that we need to reintegrate into ourselves so we can start to create the life that we want to live and get into the heart. It's not impossible, but it
It
can be
isn't.
challenging.
I think people have a hard time believing that they're worthy of having the life that they want.
Mm,
I mean, that is one of those truths that
mhm,
if you put a number on it, it would be very high.
mhm. Yeah.
Well,
And Amy, you were saying earlier, like you were talking about looking around you in the bubble and like manifesting your life situation. And I want to say that, I have a question for you, but first I just want to say, when James was talking about resistant, some people might be resistant to hearing that because there might be some people that are in really horrible situations, and they could be being bullied or even worse. And they may be like, well, I'm not responsible for this person's behavior and the way they're treating me. So, like, why are you saying that I'm manifesting it? So, if people are challenging you on that, where would you go with that for them to understand that concept?
I've always believed that you can't control what people do to you, but you
Mm-hmm.
can control how you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
You engage, you decide if you're going to get involved in a
Mm-hmm.
situation where you know it's either not good for you or the person isn't good for you. No, we get ourselves caught in situations they just happen. But you're the one that decides whether you stay or you go. And that really all depends on your self-worth, your belief systems, uh, sometimes your resources. There's a lot of people out there that feel like they have nowhere to go. I didn't have a lot of money sometimes in my first marriage, and I didn't really want to be there. I didn't have anywhere to go when I was married. But manifestation is the belief of change from that situation. And yes, we are manifesting things all the time. We're creating things all the time. But what I'm talking about is when something happens to you and you don't like it, you can be an observer or you can be very much engaged in it and have it become part of you. And there's a very big difference of that because when you have it become part of you, then you tie in all your wounds associated with it. It becomes very personal. You start creating new belief systems about yourself. You start having expectations that you can't get out. All of these other programs that are already embedded into you, they start popping up to the surface. When you allow yourself to get heavily involved and say, this is who I am, or this is my life, then what you're doing is you're agreeing to it. You're making a contract of agreeing that you're actually going to exist in that reality. But people actually do have options. They just need to be kind of trained on different mindsets, different emotional responses, being able to observe a situation without getting involved, and understanding that you don't actually have to be part of that situation to observe it. Having empowerment is really what's key in that situation.
Yeah.
So there's steps. I always say baby steps.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it alone,
There. There's a lot of people I know that have situations, and I hear it all the time of, why does this keep happening? That's my first indication that there's a pattern. And people don't recognize we get ourselves in energy patterns. Patterns are things that happen to us over and over and over again. They could be, like James said, past life. They could be self-created in this life. They could be belief systems given to us that we're just constantly living through because we don't expect anything else. Or they're just safety nets. They're things that we do over and over and over again because our energy says, we know what this is. This is familiar to us, and we're just going to keep doing it until something else looks better.
You know what I want to say something about that, like just about patterns and stuff in working with people. Sometimes they would say the same thing, like what you're saying, this thing keeps happening to me over and over again. Like sometimes they say, I feel like a target, like I have a target on my back for this to continue to happen to me. And I, a lot of the times when they would talk about situations that involved where, like you mentioned before, Amy, where people get into fight or flight. And it's like, if you're using certain belief systems, that you acquired when you were younger, let's say, that helped you survive that situation, and then you grow up, there's this very primal part, and this is what I believe, there's this very primal part of our brain that is like, okay, you know what, if I operate from this belief system and if I respond to these situations this way, so for example, not speaking up when I feel like people are putting me down or whatever, that may have worked when you were younger and you were able to survive that situation. And as you get older, your automatic response system is like, hey, I got 100% track record with survival, like when I respond this way. So to retrain yourself to respond differently and to get into a position of empowerment, that can take quite a bit of your own healing work and journey to break those patterns. Because sometimes the fight or flight response will be like, why would I take a risk when I have 100% success rate with surviving through, let's say, disassociating, for example. I know I've met a lot of people who've been in really traumatic situations where they had a disassociating response where they would mentally check out during a scary situation. And then they get older and they're in a scary situation and they're still disassociating or checking out. And then they're frustrated because they're like, I could have punched that person in the face. I could have ran away. I could have done all these things, but I didn't. I just sat there and did nothing, and they get really frustrated with themselves. And so I just want to acknowledge that no one is saying that it's easy, but it's definitely worthwhile to kind of explore it and start, like James said before, getting honest with yourself about your life experiences, how it's impacting, looking around you, asking yourself what you really want. Are they your wants? Are they somebody else's wants?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point. I mean, it's some of the stuff I do with inner child work. It's addressing that, okay, you came by that pattern of behavior and beliefs honestly. It kept you alive. There was a reason for it. There's a benefit to it. It's probably not serving you now, which is why you're taking a look at it. And then talking to your child when you get to that state, that inner child, in a very safe and loving way. And, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm going to empower myself. And really how I look at that process in the energy that it takes to make that transition is, I'm going to do this and I'm willing to do this because I love myself so much that I'm going to do this, even though it could be, very scary.
Mm.
I think the automatic responses are something that may be very difficult to reprogram. Years, if not a lifetime, to reprogram. But one thing people can remember, a tool they can use, is nobody can touch their heart. Their automatic responses are ways for their fight or flight, for them to say, I'm going to act in this way. They're more action oriented than anything else. But nobody can tell them how to feel in that moment except themselves. So if I am, such as I did go through a hard childhood, I did have where I had to get very quiet if I were to speak up on get the backhand. So yes, I had to be very quiet. But nobody was telling me how I had to think or feel in that moment. And I think by telling people they have empowerment in some way, by giving them the tools and options to say, I'm responding this way, I'm angry at myself. Okay, be angry at yourself. You would have liked to have responded in a different way, but you couldn't have, because your energy, your mind, your heart, everything already knew what to do. It already had a program there. But manifestation goes the extra mile, because now that you know you could have responded in a different way, you now can set intention. Next time something like this happens, I'm going to plant a seed. I'm going to say, this is how I'm going to respond next time. I'm going to tell my energy, my body that protects me, my mind that helps navigate me, my heart that helps protect me. I'm going to talk to all parts of me, set an intention, and say, this is how I'd like to respond going forward. And keep setting that intention every time something happens. And that can start rewriting the program. That can start giving you more of your control back to yourself, so that you don't feel like you don't have control anymore. That's one thing. That's what they don't want. They don't want to feel like they're out of control. We want to have our empowerment back. And just because it didn't happen right at that very moment doesn't mean it can't. And it doesn't mean you don't have the power to change it. So I want people to have some type of hope that they have more control than they think.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that we gave a lot of attention to just the idea of manifestation in terms of sometimes recreating patterns in our life that we don't want, because I think it weighs heavily on people, and it really deserves that time. But I know that we have like other perspectives too, like on manifestation and stuff that we were talking about a little bit before. I'm really interested in everybody's idea about intentional, manifestation, right? That is like based out of maybe desire and what they want to see for themselves, even though we know there's been interplay back with wounding or potential blockages to being able to be successful in getting what you want. But I'm just curious with everybody here, your experience either personally or with others in terms of intentionally manifesting things that you want in your life.
Yeah. What do you think, Gigi?
You have to have belief. It doesn't work without the belief. I mean, we can write, when I work with my clients, we do ceremonial bundles, and you can write down a billion things, but if your belief isn't in it, your energy is not in it. Your energy isn't in it. Your energy is not going to the creator. I personally, well, as you can tell, I've been fighting breast cancer. And when I was first diagnosed, it scared the holy crap out of me. And my intentional manifestation was I was going to get through this, and I was going to do it with a positive attitude, which I did I think I did pretty good. I think I did pretty good. And so with that belief, and yes, I had some breaking moments. I had some spiritual breaking moments, but it kept on. I reached for faith. I reached for the divine light. I reached for my beautiful support groups that were praying for me. And for me, And the way I was taught, it's about your belief in if you're doing an intentional intention, so to speak. It has to be with belief. It has to be with true, honest belief in your heart.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that. But you also put effort into your belief.
Yes. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember that old joke about how I think it was, I don't know if it was a man or something who was praying and he wanted to win the lotto, and his intention was to win the lotto, and he started to fret after about a month of not winning, and finally the higher divine spoke to him and said, "You got to work with me here. You got to buy a ticket."
Yeah.
So we have to do things. We can't just say, "Oh, this is what I want," this is my intention, but we have to put work into it. We have to
Bought a ticket? Are you kidding me? He didn't think he'd actually have to do anything.
He put it out there that he wanted to win the lotto. He waited and waited and waited, and then he started berating the higher divine, and that's when the divine said, "You got to work with me here. You got to buy a ticket."
I'm so glad you brought that up because, and Amy, you talked about Bashar earlier. I think that's like the myth or one of the myths of the law of attraction. If you just, wish it, it'll happen. But Bashar talks about, action is the language of the universe. Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
oh, you gotta take some steps.
Yeah, definitely.
You got to take a lot of steps,
Mhm.
And I think I tell this to a lot of people, the difference between a successful person or the person who gets everything they want and the person who doesn't is how much effort they put into it.
Mhm.
How much do you really want it? And I really want people to kind of look at that, at what they are trying to manifest. Because I think I had a conversation with James the other day on this. Quote me if I'm wrong, James. But when I was talking, I was like, okay, how much do you want something? Because if whatever it is you're trying to manifest and you find it's not happening, how much effort are you putting in? And if you're not putting a lot of effort into it, you really have to analyze how much you want it. Because the things that you truly want, you'll never give up on. You'll keep going for it. You'll keep manifesting. You'll keep believing. You'll keep working really hard. You won't ever give up. But for the things that you're trying to manifest that you maybe don't want so much, you're not going to put a lot of effort into it. You're really
Yeah.
not going to. You're going to be more that person with the lottery saying, okay, just give it to me. And if you're saying, just give it to me, the universe is going to look at you and be like, I got a billion other people I got to work with. You gotta step up, work with me, meet me halfway, kind of thing. So I think a big part of manifesting is knowing that we live in a physical world where action and movement are required in third dimensional density. Thinking it is great. Having emotions to supply it with power is
Mhm.
wonderful.
Mhm.
But action moves it forward. It tells the universe, I really want this. And then when you act again on it and you believe and you set intention, then you're telling the universe, hey, by the way, don't forget, I want this. And so the universe is constantly prompting, oh, hello, I want this. I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. For the things you really, really want, I don't think manifesting is all that difficult. I don't. Because no one in the world is ever going to be able to talk you out of it. So, not for the things you really want. What do you think, Cynthia?
I'm thinking that if somebody is like, I really, really want this. What are you saying, Amy? Like, I do want it. It's just, I've been wanting this for years. And I'd be like, time to look at your wounds because maybe there's a blockage and you need to kind of explore that, and watch it earlier if you're, just watching us now. But that's something that you need to look at, because you're right. If it's something that you really, really want, you are going to be thinking about it a lot. You're going to be strategizing. Maybe you are going to be putting it to action. And if it's not happening, maybe it's time to kind of look at some things underneath that might be a little bit subconscious in you, programming that you haven't acknowledged. And what's the harm? Just explore it, rule it out, go there, do it with the support of somebody. Like, James has a whole practice out of this stuff, right? So I mean, it's worth it, especially if it's that important to you.
Mhm.
Right. I think it is. You know, one thing that a lot of people don't like to bring up is that they could be manifesting their own stuff, like we're talking about. What do you think? What do you mean I'm manifesting this bad job. I'm manifesting not being able to pay my bills. I'm manifesting not being able to have that car. And I look at them like, yep, you are. Because who's the creator of your life? And I don't get a lot of good looks with that one. But it's true. You are the creator of your life. You can't control everything that happens to you. Those are sometimes predestined. They are. Some things just happen because you have a contract to go through that scenario to learn a little bit more about yourself. Sometimes you're trying to learn something about yourself you don't want to see. I don't like it. I don't want to see it. But the universe keeps showing it to you, and it keeps showing it to you in a negative way, and all these bad things keep happening because it's trying to get you to understand. So we sometimes are manifesting things, not because we want them, but because we need them. Oh, there's that word. The universe always gives you what you need, not what you want. I always tell that to people. The universe will always give you what you need. And it isn't what you need, your mind, being you, your ego, your identity, but your soul. What does the soul need? And so I always tell people, look inward. Why did I bring this to me? Intentionally or automatic? Why is this happening? What is it that the universe, God, creator, felt my soul needed through this? And you got to really analyze it. You got to look deep and really look at it from the perspective of how is this going to empower me after all of it's said and done? How is I going to learn? How is I going to become wiser? What is it that I'm going to achieve through this that I just can't see just yet? And another part of manifesting that sometimes we find doesn't always happen right away is you have to look at divine timing. I hate that word. I'm not a fan of it.
It's a trigger word for some.
Divine timing.
Trigger
We
word
got to
for
talk a
me.
little bit about that because I've had so many people say, "Oh, all these things are going to happen in divine timing," and I'm like, "Well, can divine timing speed it up? Because I want it now." And many of us are not patient. And my guides have come through and they're like, Amy, patience is a virtue. I'm like, yes, I know. I've learned it. Great. And they're like, oh, you thought you have until you start asking for more right away. And they do confirm that divine timing is technically true. Because if you have to look at all the things that have to be lined up, all the dots that have to be connected, all the realities that have to be in sync, all the people's minds and emotions and their actions and everything to be in a synchronistic pattern of flow. Everything has to align just right for some of the manifestations to occur. So patience is really, really needed because once you do set intention, once you do believe, and once you start putting that action into play, now all you have to do is sit and wait for the divine timing, all of those things to be synchronized just right, and faith that the universe has heard you and your guides are navigating you exactly where you need to be. What do you think about divine timing, James? Wonderful subject as it is.
Well, I was just saying it triggers me. I'm not the most patient person.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I know exists. And
Do you believe in
know,
it? Do you believe it's real? Or do you think things just happen automatically?
no, I believe it's real. Um, when I was talking about resistance, it's like, okay, how is this playing out in my life and what is my experience with it and how can I guess be patient. So, practicing patience and knowing that like I'm not a patient person by nature. And then trust, you mentioned like having faith. And one of the other things that came up when we talked is trusting in the universe, right? Like everything is happening for me. It'll happen in the right time. Like I do believe that.
You know,
Doesn't mean I like it, but
one thing I'd like us to kind of talk a little bit about, kind of the last part of manifesting, is thinking about whether what we're manifesting is actually good for us or not. Because let's face it, we're not always our best judges. Or, we think that we need this over here to make us happy. We need $1 million to make sure that we have everything we need. Or we have to be, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest in your life, people really need to take a good hard look at it and actually ask themselves, is it good for you? Is it right for you? And how much do you really need it? Because if you're finding you're working so hard for it and it's not coming to you, the universe might be telling you that maybe it's not the best thing for you, and to look at it from a different perspective or to look in a different direction. Because I know so many people that want things to happen in their life and it never did. And then they look back and go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that didn't happen, because that wouldn't have been very good for me. I was naive, or I was egotistical, or I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't think how it would affect other people. So I think we need to kind of analyze what is it that we're actually trying to create in our lives, and think about, when's the last time you counted your blessings? When's the last time you looked at your life with a state of joy and just completion and celebration, going, I'm just so happy to be here and that I have the opportunity to create, instead of looking at your life and seeing all the things that have gone wrong and you don't like your creation. Sometimes things are just the way they are because we wanted to learn certain lessons. But take a look at what you're actually trying to manifest. Is it truly good for you? What do you think, Cynthia?
So I have thoughts on this right away. So for me, okay, I've always, like, out of my career, I started learning very quickly that two truths can exist at the same time, even if they seem that they are opposite. And I often use an example where you can say, I really want, to lose weight, but I really want to eat that piece of cake. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel both things. Doesn't mean you don't want to lose weight just because you really want a piece of cake, right? So when I think about the two truths as it applies to what you said, it's like I can still be grateful for things in my life and still want to manifest certain things as well.
Right.
So I'm more of the position where I say manifest away, because two things are going to happen. You're either going to create what it is that you're looking for in the experiences in your life, and we live in a universe of free will. So create away, or you're not, and the universe is going to teach you something. So either way, there's experiences where you're learning things about the world, about others, about yourself. So manifest away. And, at the end of the day, if you keep trying to go in a particular direction and it's not working, you're going to learn something from that experience. And you might learn that there's a wound, because just like you said before, like, I've been on that stream where I'm trying to manifest something, and then new information, I don't have what I want, but new information comes in, and I'm sitting there going, I'm so glad that I didn't get that yet, right? Because this is really helpful, learning this piece. But
Right.
then I continue on my path of what it is that I want. And then it happened again and again. And so maybe the divine timing is what's coming into play. And it's like, we needed you to look at these things, Cynthia. We needed you to change these things, Cynthia, because we're trying to get you closer to what it is that you do want to be in alignment with, and at the end of the day. So I'm very much like about, do what feels right to you, honor yourself. But the most important thing is to be honest with yourself, and do it because it's something that you really feel is important to you, for you to have on your life experience, because I think that is the most honorable thing you can do. And that's very different than saying be selfish. I'm not saying be selfish. I'm just saying be honest about the things that you want, or the experiences that you want. Stay grounded enough and honest enough to know when you have to take a pause to look at yourself, and don't spill your upset or your pain onto others because you're not getting what you want. Like there's a certain amount of integrity that you have to have, but manifest away. That's my perception.
And a lot of people, they manifest things that may not be good for others as well. Gigi, what do you think the karma or the energy connected to that? How do you think that would play out?
And as we said before, manifestation can be intentional and it cannot be intentional. I find that people can manifest, like, for instance, poisonous relationships by constantly dumping on other people. The negativity, the constant, okay, ask me the question again because I just lost my whole train of thought.
Well, if people are manifesting things intentionally that they know will be bad for other people, what do you think? Because
that's for us, that's a huge no-no. I mean, it's a no everywhere, but I mean, that's a huge no-no. There's no such thing to us that, it's going to get back at you or things like that. But the energies eventually do manifest, because it's kind of like the saying what we said at the beginning, what you put out, sometimes you get back.
Right.
And sometimes we can put out something beautiful and we can get back something really crappy. But sometimes, somebody could put out something that's not so nice and something great comes back. Any intention to manifest something that's negative to me is just to harm another person. Huge no-no. Just huge no-no. Eventually there is a lesson in that. There are ways of protecting yourself from those types of manifestations from people, to where it's not reflected back to them like, oh, you're going to get punished, but more of, I'm sending this back to you with a lesson and love. So there are different ways of handling it. There are different ways, but then you could get into other things, depends on how intentional and how strong and how negative these manifestations are too.
Right.
I hope that made sense.
Oh, yeah. And James, there's a lot of people out there that try to manifest. I know the classic case is a mom trying to manifest so many great things for their children. I want this to happen for them. I want that to happen for them. And people need to also realize that manifestation is a personal journey, and that maybe trying to manifest for other people might be taking something away from them. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. There's so much to that question. Yeah, we project our stuff on our kids, and a lot of times, Gigi was saying, beliefs, what are your beliefs? Is that in alignment with you? A lot of times children take on the, beliefs of their parents, or their parents want them to be a lawyer, and it's not in alignment with what they really want. And so there's this lifetime of potential issues. So we have to be careful. In mindfulness, we talk about being non-judgmental. I think that's a really important practice to have, in trying to be encouraging and supporting of our kids and loving as they go through whatever they're choosing to go through. Like there's certain things that we can do, right? And we can be, as parents, sometimes we hit the mark and sometimes we miss the mark, but I think it is important to keep in mind that we're all on our own path.
We very much are, as weird as they may be, for sure.
I like that you brought it up. Like, I'm not a fan of, manifesting intentional upset or harm or suffering into another person's life at all. There's enough suffering in the world. Like, I don't want to contribute it to it myself personally if I don't have to. And so definitely when you bring that up, I do think about ways we can protect ourselves from maybe people trying to wish ill will on us or trying to manifest trouble in our lives or what have you, whether directly or indirectly. And I know for myself, I just try to have a good energetic hygiene practice where on a regular basis, I'm clearing myself energetically, or I'm cutting energy cords with people. Even if it wasn't a bad experience, I still know, and I learned this from you, Aim, gotta say, talking about clearing yourself and cutting cords and sending energy back to others who may be trying to anchor into you. Because sometimes they might anchor into you because you're a huge support, but they drain you, and they really rely on you. So sometimes you just got to send that energy back to them for their highest and their best. And so I do that on a regular basis so that I'm not kind of having that stuff energetically manifesting around me in my space, interfering with whatever I have going on for myself. I don't know if anybody else does anything else in order to protect themselves from that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Mine is a lot when I do meditation in the morning, is to not only enclose myself in light, but also to have shields around myself that reflect out a shiny, like a mirror. And anything that is of ill intention, energy, etc., is reflected back to the person who sends it. But like I said, instead of going, okay, this is going to get you, it's more of a, I'm sending this back to you with lessons and love.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, we're going back and forth here with this thing, because I don't know who's sending what. I have no idea. And I'm not going to waste my energy trying to figure out who has, who may have, gotten upset with me about something, but I have no problem sending it back with a lesson to learn and with love. You can't get any higher than that,
Nope, you can't. You can't.
I
So
like that.
I think people need to realize they have more power than they think they do. I want people to leave with the note of the idea that you are all divine creators. Whether you believe in God or not, you are a creator energetically. It's universal law. We are creators. And if you are a creator, then start creating the life you always wanted to live. You have the power of choice. If there are things that are going on in your life that you don't like, you have the power to change it. It doesn't take this huge manifestation to change. Sometimes it just takes one little thing just to start moving things in a different direction. But it takes courage to change. It takes belief in yourself. And it takes a change of expectation. What are you expecting to have happen? Because your expectations go a long way in how the ripple effect works of things coming back to you. So start expecting better for yourself. I think we had a great topic of discussion today. I think we had a good time. I'm so grateful to have James on and being our guest today. We didn't scare you too much, did we, James?
You were all wonderful, and thank you for having me.
It was great to have you on. And of course, Gigi, you're fantastic. And we hope that you're feeling better soon. And Gigi, Cynthia, we didn't have any emails today. I don't think we had any questions either, but I think we want to remind our viewers to send questions over to our email. Cynthia, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're interested, like anything that you have on your mind, I know we have scheduled things that we cover in terms of topics, but it doesn't mean that you have to ask a question relating specifically to the topic. We're curious out of, to know the audience and where their mind is at and what they want to know more about, or where their mind is turning to. I want to thank James for being here today. Appreciate you for doing that. And I'd like, you do obviously great work, and you're bringing awareness to really important topics for people. And I'm wondering, can you share with us where people can find you? Do your podcast, your presence online?
Sure. Yeah, my website is journeymindfulness.com. And all the links to my podcast and socials are there. I have a pretty robust blog library that talks a lot about these things as well. So people can look up stuff there.
I have to thank James, because there was just so much you shared that's opened my eyes to things. So I really appreciate you being on today's podcast.
Well, I appreciate it. And if I could just share a couple of things that have really helped me, and that is, the action of fear or the belief in fear only brings in more fear. So
Mm.
once you decide in a moment that you are going to do, away with fear and bring in love, that's a big deal. And then also that you can and you will. Once you decide I can and I will, good things will happen.
Awesome.
That. I love that. I recently had a kind of like a meditative experience where spirit told me that fear is an accelerant. It's used as an accelerant to more negative thoughts and things. And fear is a great starting place to get self-doubt to creep in and, really propel you into the wrong direction. So that really resonates with me, that idea of, if you can really change fear to love, how powerful of that an experience that would be. And, even Gigi saying, I don't respond to the bad juju that I'm getting with fear, and I'm just sending it back with lessons in love. Like, that's just brilliant. And if anybody has questions or comments that they have about just spirit stuff in general, or for any of us, you can email us at spiritrescuetalk@gmail.com.
Very good. Very good. We are looking forward to your emails, your comments. Just comment down below. Let us know what you feel about manifestation. Let us know what your beliefs are, and are you living the life of your dreams right now? So thank you for joining us all today. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great day.